Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for having me here. Mayor Cheney and Lori, I really do appreciate you inviting me and asking me to be the moderator today. And as Stacy mentioned earlier, this is going to be very much focused around the emerging workforce. And I guess being from the Department of Labor, that's the reason I'm here. So we're going to have Stacy as well. She already talked about what Leadership Prep School is doing for the emerging workforce that we see coming up. Right now, I think it's kindergarten to 11th graders. That's the future of America right now. So we're going to start our discussion off with Mayor Cheney. Sir, I would like to know, what are the workforce challenges that are in Frisco today?
I thought I was going to be able to ease into this discussion with this panel that we have today, but thanks first for hosting us. So, quick story about Leadership Prep School. Literally, my first day as mayor, I came to visit their school. So I've been sworn in on a Tuesday, and Wednesday morning they came to give me a tour of everything that the students were doing, just phenomenal programs that they're doing here, teaching our youth here in Frisco. We have so many great options. Obviously, Frisco ISD is the best school district in the state of Texas. So thank you, Dr. Waldrip, and yes, sir. But there's also other great options for people looking for differences for their children. Part about being mayor and leadership team here in Frisco, I know we have John Keating here as well. America's favorite councilman is here to listen as well and tell me everything I got wrong. But we get to see everything from a macro level, really, and try to plan out the city, which is we're trying to attract corporations, here to our community and the right type of corporations. And the only way we can do that is if we have the right workforce. And it's not just the workforce that's living here, it's training a new workforce. And so that's why you see City Council making such an initiative into bringing those educational opportunities. I mean, really, the conversation has changed. We used to meet with companies 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they were interested in the amenities, they were interested in our plan and our vision, those kinds of things for the city. Now they open the conversation is, what is your talent pool, and what are you doing to train your talent pool? And so that's why having higher educational things in our community like Collin College, and of course our new partnership with University of North Texas to really be able to provide that is critical. But then it also starts at a young age too, from being able to train the workforce of the children here too, from Frisco ISD to Leadership Prep School and others that are doing that. So there's a place for them to come back to. So that is kind of really our challenges is training that future workforce, and then training the industries that we're looking for that complement the companies that want to be here. The last thing that I'll mention is, Frisco is becoming very quickly a tourist town. I mean, we just had our annual meeting with our Visit Frisco team last night. Frisco had 6 million visitors to our community last year. They brought essentially $40 million of tax revenues to our city. So that's why we're able to provide these kinds of services to our community and amenities. But part of that challenge is, you talk to people like at the Omni and other places is, the service level jobs and how we're providing those jobs to continue to be a tourist city as we add more restaurants, how are they getting that part of the sector to our community. So we're dealing with all those kinds of issues on a daily basis.
Thank you so much. And yes, that is really important. I do know that we come up to Frisco all the time to visit, and I always bring our DC team here. So we spend a lot of money in your restaurants. So to the educators on the panel, what are the perceived gaps in preparing your students to be future employees that you're working to fill at the moment?
Perceived gaps right now, and we're moving quickly to fill those gaps, is to, keeping the pulse on what's needed by business and industry, and moving as quickly and nimbly as Stacy mentioned to fill those gaps, and then working on with industry and business partners to evaluate the programs on a continuing basis, upgrading them, updating them, so we can get students through the pathway that to follow and into a viable job. Keeping track of what is needed in industry and business is one of the gaps that we're attentive to.
I think at Frisco ISD we've adopted a future-ready philosophy for our students, and obviously we don't know with any certainty what the future holds, but by staying plugged into our community, particularly our business community, we have a business partnerships director that's out there in the audience right now that helps us with that. It keeps us in touch with what's going on in the world and what's going on in the workforce, and it allows us to adapt and change programs and things that prepare our students for that next level, whatever that is for them. Obviously, we have a college-going culture. A lot of our kids go on to college and higher ed, but we also have programs that fill that gap in between. We have 27 industry-level certifications right now that you can get through our CTE Center that prepare kids immediately to enter the workforce if they were to choose to do so when they leave us. So we try to keep our hand on the pulse of what's going on out there by staying in touch with our business partners and engaging them and bringing them into our schools and into our classrooms so that we can stay on top of that kind of thing.
At the University of North Texas, we're focused on a creativity-first philosophy, that we have many different careers, emerging industries, that we can't even know what businesses are going to be created next, but we know that it's going to take a creative mindset and a focus on building enduring skills that will last regardless of where students' careers go next.
And I'll just tag on to that, you saw a little bit of what we're already doing. The reality is that without staying in touch with you, our business partners, to help keep us informed of where to go next and the changes that we need to make, then we will not be able to continue to grow and prepare our students. Our little kindergartners are going to most likely enter a workforce where there's going to be jobs that aren't even in existence today when they graduate from high school. So we really do have to have a pulse or stay very nimble in education so that we can have those opportunities to continue to prepare them.
Thank you guys so much for the answers. We happen to have on our panel 3 different industries. So to the industries, now that you've heard what the educators are looking at doing, knowing your own industry sectors, what do you see looking forward to the next 5 years as increasing opportunities for your workforce?
There we go. So what Stacy said is exactly right. We don't know exactly what our jobs will look like in the future. We are adapting constantly. At Gearbox, we make video games, but think about the size of our market. We need people who work for us, who are pursuing mastery in all the many disciplines that go into making games, who can think about our customers on a global scale. We publish a game called Fortnite. Some of you or your kids or friends might play that game. That is played around the world. We make a game called Borderlands, which is a very well-known popular game that people play around the world, and they play with each other. And because they play with each other, customers get excited about what's coming next, what they can do, and forecast what's happening in the market. So we need schools to encourage their children to work with your students, to give them a global perspective, because we are making products for the world, and who are technically proficient, pursuing mastery on an individual basis, and know how to work with each other in teams, can be a team player and not be selfish. So if you can accomplish all those things, we'll be in a very good spot.
So I'll say thank you on behalf of my children and all of the kids represented in the room. We are all investors in Fortnite, one way or another.
Kevin Hale's playing it right now.
Yeah. So is my son, probably. Should be in school. So there's a couple things that we think about at Bank of America. We don't know what the future holds either in terms of jobs, but we talk about high tech, high touch. We talk about that in the way we approach our clients, the way we build real estate, and the way we hire and train our folks. So whether you're coming in for a tech and ops job or a retail financial center job or a financial advisor role, all of the folks that we attract to our company need to be willing to become tech savvy, to teach our clients how to use the technology well. And they also have to possess or be willing to learn soft skills, because there are certain things like asking good questions, making eye contact, shaking hands, being genuinely interested in what your partner needs. Like those things, they will be here in a decade, and your kindergartners will need that. So we gear all of our programs around a high-tech and a high-touch strategy.
So I echo everything that's been said with my industry partners. I do want to thank the mayor for your comments around urban planning. I think it starts with building a city that people want to live in. Education is one piece of it, but we think about in Boeing sort of where is the talent, and if we don't have a location there, how do we contribute to the community so that that's a place that people want to productively live and contribute beyond, whether it's a virtual work arrangement, a small site like we have here in Legacy West in Plano in North Texas, but we've got sites all over. So thank you for your comments on urban planning. I think it really starts there. I would also thank you, not just for the children, but you make me a better parent because it's my leverage when homework isn't done. So thank you for that. Yeah, no, thank you, that's right. But I think in addition to everything that's been communicated, what I would also say is important from an education perspective is learning how to problem solve, being a good team player, having the technical skills, but teaching people to project manage and using artificial intelligence and data to problem solve so that when they come into the workforce, that's not something that's foreign to them, that they understand how to be creative, but how to back up solutions with empirical evidence, how to learn from failure and making mistakes. Maybe you made an assumption based on data that you thought you had or understanding that you believed you were operating from. And how do you regroup and show that grit and resilience when data presents itself that says what you originally thought was wrong based on your hypothesis and your new learning, and how do you go a different direction and move agilely? I think that's one thing I'd love to see, that project management, that artificial intelligence, that data consumption to make you a better whatever you are. I think that's an important piece. If we're not including that in our curriculum, I'd love to encourage us to consider that.
That's awesome intel. I think that feedback is really important for the educators. I'm going to tag on to that question for the businesses, though, and ask, what immediate challenges are you seeing now in trying to find the right talent for your industries?
We actually have many challenges. One of them is the arts are important for us especially. Games are differentiated first by how they look, and art isn't taught in school very often, except for here. I'm so happy that LPS has brought art into the curriculum. On the technology side, problem solving is so important. So learning the language, we find many people who apply for positions where they show a basic level of competency for hard skills and occasionally for soft skills, but they haven't gone to the next step of problem solving with those skills. And we actually prioritize that first in our hiring process. So that's a big challenge for us. And we have them across all disciplines for those who have applied. Again, I'll kind of hone in on this again, both as individuals and in a team context. When someone comes to us, if they haven't performed at a high level as an individual, but also as a team, then it's very difficult for us to know what the fit will be, and it's very costly for us to make bad decisions in hiring. So the more that can be brought into curriculum, the better it will be for us, less of a challenge.
In addition, I would say there's a few other things. I would say for us, especially on the manufacturing side, software is important, and we have a software part of my business, so I agree. We also need manual dexterity. So we need kids to have recess, and we need them to be climbing jungle gyms, and we need them to be playing with old-fashioned things like Tinker Toys and whatever those log things were. Because we have a workforce now that actually don't know how to use drills to make planes. They've been their whole life on a joystick. They don't have the spatial reasoning to put things together. So I would encourage you, since many of you probably fly on our products, I would urge you, right? We spend a lot of time training and getting people up to speed in this space. We used to have it, everybody did this, right? Everybody went outside and ran around and climbed trees. It's a different childhood now. So we've got to make sure that we're not so focused on the technology and those innate capabilities, but we're also giving people sort of those other capabilities, those technical capabilities. The other one I would say, you talked about handshakes. I would say just good old-fashioned integrity and having teaching honesty and things like that. I think the age of the internet puts so much information in everybody's hands. It's easy to blur the line on what is mine and what is shared and what can I take credit for. And I think it's one of the things, the hallmarks of the Boeing company is our ethics and integrity. And what we find is that people, it's a very hard, bright line in terms of what we expect. When you make a mistake, say you made a mistake and it's okay. But we are raising a generation, we have a lot of folks who come in sometimes and just are having a hard time understanding how to be forthright, how to look people in the eye and say, wow, I really screwed that up, boss. How do I recover this? We're not teaching those sort of softer skills, and I'd encourage us to get back to a place where we're putting that in our program management, our project management, and our overall curriculum in general.
Two quick things. The first, for Bank of America, I think our biggest challenge is scale. We have over 14,000 employees in DFW, 200,000 worldwide. So anytime we embark in a partnership or we get into recruiting or we work with a university to develop a program, we like to do things at scale, and that's a little bit difficult sometimes. So that's a business problem. That's a Bank of America challenge. However, regarding students and kids, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence. We talk a lot about how someone's maybe volunteer background, or they're working in the service industry, or the way they interact with their family may lead to better outcomes for our clients. So we spend a lot of time in our own training programs talking about emotional intelligence and making sure that kind of real connections can be made. I think that's where potentially integrity comes in, and having an earnest desire to help a client as opposed to see your own ends get met. So that's what we focus on.
A lot of talk about soft skills, but I love the fact that you asked to have those toys that we played with when we were younger still in the household, because I do believe that a lot of parents think they have to put technology in front of children to make them successful. So I would like to ask educators, how are you addressing the needs that these industries are bringing to the table?
So in all of our programs, we have soft skills built into them. And when we work with business and industry partners to build programs and evaluate programs, update them, they're there and they tell us. We just finished a series of task force meetings with business industry and the cybersecurity and for the bachelor's in cybersecurity that we hope to get up and running soon. And loud and clear was that we the soft skills. And in those discussions, we hear not only that we need soft skills, but what are those soft skills? What's the best way to incorporate them into the program? Where? We also, in all of our curricular aspects, we have skills built into courses. We also have plenty of extracurricular opportunities for for students to build those soft skills. If you had an opportunity to meet the two career counselor coaches in the back from Collin College, that's one effort that we've made to make sure that students are prepared for career interviewing, for showing that for having teamwork experience and discussing their experience in team. And they put on a number of events where they talk, where they learn about how to dress and how to speak and how to write resumes, how to do an interview, etc. So in both curricular, it's infused in both the curricular aspects of Collin College, all the way from high school through Collin to our university partners as well as the extracurricular activities that we have.
Appreciated the note about building stuff. We just opened a brand new visual arts and design building at UNT. We have world-class arts programs, and one of the first courses they take is wood shop. And so they learn how to use a drill. And what our lab instructors say is that it's actually kind of good that the kids aren't coming in knowing how to do that, because it's not grandpa's way without safety goggles and just like plug and go. And so we get to teach them a lot of the safety skills and things like that go with best practices of making sure that we're creating a safe environment first for our students to learn in. And so we encourage you to come visit what we've got going on at UNT, focusing on enduring competencies and working with our partners all the way from kindergarten through to community colleges to make sure that we're bridging what each other is doing to make sure we're providing the best education possible to meet the region's needs.
Obviously, we're trying to start at a very young age with immersing our students in those soft skills at a very, starting in kindergarten and as far as we have them until they graduate. I really believe that just like learning to read and to write and math skills, soft skills can be taught, overtly taught, and they need to be exposed to them frequently and often, and they need lots of practice for it to become natural to them. And that's what we're trying to provide, starting with our computer science immersion in kindergarten and our project-based learning as we continue to grow them. As far as mechanical skills, we are in the process of creating maker spaces within both buildings because we have also heard from our industry partners that students need to have some of those dexterity and some of those skills that are lacking because they are not in the same world as when we grew up playing with Tinker Toys and Lincoln Logs. And I did remember what those were called. Legos, obviously, is a really good building block for students, and we do have Lego programs within our elementary campus. So just some of the things that we're trying to work on, and again, we know that things are continually changing, and we're going to need to change right along with them. But I see really good things happening across the education system here in Frisco, and I'm really proud to live here and be part of it.
Oh, I just want to reassure everyone, we do still have recess. And we have things like band programs and orchestra programs. We have maker spaces in our schools where, and kids have opportunities to take brain breaks and collaborate with one another. We actually have a future-ready profile, a profile for a future-ready learner. And it incorporates these communication skills, collaboration skills, with an emphasis on the social, emotional piece, paying particular attention to emotional intelligence and how important that is when you're collaborating with one another. Some of our elementary schools have adopted a house structure as opposed to a grade level structure where the grade levels they come together and they're mixed and grouped into houses where they get to interact with peers that they normally wouldn't see in a grade level structure, where kindergartners are actually getting to interact with fifth graders. And they do collaborative projects together. And they learn how to work together and in those kinds of environments. And taking that a step further, we have programs at the high school level particularly where our kids are involved in mentorship programs where they're actually pursuing career interests. And they find out early if that's something they actually want to do. I actually think that's one of the best pieces about our independent study mentorship programs. A kid thinks they want to be a doctor, and then they get in there and they find out that is the absolute last thing they want to do with their lives. And that's a whole lot better to find out as a junior in high school that you don't want to be a doctor as opposed to finding out after you get into the middle of med school that you don't want to be a doctor. So we are emphasizing all those things in our schools and expanding those opportunities through challenge-based learning environments for our kids where they come together and they work together as teams to solve a problem. We give them agency, let them be involved in some of their own learning, guide some of their own learning, and they have to learn how to communicate that out to their peers and how to interact with their peers and have a social contract where they hold one another accountable for what they're doing in those groups. So we're trying to do all those things. I could make this whole thing about Frisco ISD, but I won't, so I'll stop right there.
I just want to say thank you so much to the employers for being proactive about this and the education leaders as well. I think it's really important when both parties work well because we're seeing really great unemployment decreases right now, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics and all of us at DOL is really happy. We're actually freeing up some time to do other projects. So that's good. Now, most of the businesses mentioned soft skills. Do you generally screen for soft and hard skills? And how successful have you been at identifying candidates with both?
I'll take a shot at this. Short answer is yes, we do screen for both. Depending on the role at Bank of America, we'll start actually with video conferencing or telepresence for some of our more high volume roles, and then we progress to in-person. We've done our best to get away from phone-based conversations. You can just pick up on a lot more when you can see another human being and interact with them directly. So yes, we screen for both. how well, I think, was your second question, and I think that's a work in progress. Turnover in my line of business was 33% annually about 5 years ago, significant. It's down to 20% for a couple of reasons. One, because we interview differently, and I think we've gotten better at finding the right people for the right jobs, and then partially because we have an academy program inside of the company where folks join the Bank of America Academy, and they spend anywhere between 4 and 14 weeks in the academy, and then we help them with their career pathing. So we're still working on it, so we still lose 1 out of 5 every year, but yes, we care about both.
We do as well, and depending on the level, and we will do more of it. So I would say there's a few things that we do. Irrespective of your level, we do screen for behavioral-based interviewing. So we always want to know not just what you did, but what was your role in it and what did you personally contribute? Did you lead a team? How did you do it? So we do certainly probe for that. We also have what we call the Boeing behaviors, which are a unique and very important set of behaviors for us, and that's part of our screening process. Whether you're an executive, a manager, non-management, individual contributor, it is the same code of conduct, it is the same set of behaviors all around the globe that we screen for. Now, I will say for leaders, we have started and we will do a lot more screening for proclivity around a few things. Number one, propensity to create a diverse and inclusive space. That is a huge space for us. And it's not just the traditional. My business unit is the most global in Boeing, so it's not just the domestic sort of women and minorities, but it's also other cultures, other countries. Can you work effectively outside of people who are not American? Because we are in 70 different countries. The sun never sets on global services. And so it's important that we understand not just the technical capabilities that people bring to a job, but their proclivity for actually inspiring and engaging other people. And we absolutely screen both for behaviors, but also management inclination to stop doing technical work and inspire others to do technical work. And we'll do more of that as well.
Love that. I love that. We do. For individuals, we're looking for resiliency. When we are putting them through our screening process, we're checking if they take a challenge and turn it into an opportunity to be creative. We challenge our candidates in a number of different ways in one-on-one interviews and in a team setting. And we look to see how far they can stretch in their imagination in problem solving, but also with interpreting questions they've been asked or scenarios that they've been put into. We do not do, say, a formal Myers-Briggs assessment of their personality. Because it doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is can they work with the team that they will be working with. So is there a particular fit for the actual individuals who they'll be embedded with? And also, there's not really time for a crawl, walk, run process for training with them. We need to know that they'll be able to run on day one. And what that really means is, do they ask questions? Do they seek out information? And do they stop when an issue is put in front of them they haven't experienced before? Or do they get really creative about how to approach it? So we try to test for that in our interview process, but we find it for 20 years has been a difficult thing to do. So we do the best we can. We get probably a 50% success rate on that. And we'll keep working on it.
Thank you, guys. So, little known fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that only 15% of college graduates actually work in the field that they majored in. Can you tell me, UNT, I'm going to direct this one at you since you have higher degrees, what are you currently doing to increase that statistic?
Actually, I don't find that statistic to be a problem because our careers and industries are evolving so quickly that 10 years ago, our graduates wouldn't be imagining they're going to be working on Fortnite. We have traditional industries like Boeing, but now the Global Services Division requires a totally different skill set. And so what we have to be focusing on is we're preparing college career-ready graduates in disciplines with the flexibility to be able to adapt to the different careers that are emerging over time. And so that statistic tells me that all of us as partners have to be focused on how we're creating enduring competencies that regardless of whether I get a degree in finance or engineering or in social sciences, that I'm able to adapt those skills to whatever these business partners are going to need next.
awesome answer. I'm going to follow that up with a question to the businesses. So, knowing that we have college graduates graduating with generic or general type degrees in engineering, et cetera, but they need to adapt to the workforce today, do you utilize apprenticeships in your company? And if so, how does it work? And what have you learned from that hiring strategy?
I'm still focused on whether I know the degrees my direct reports got 25 years ago when they went to college, and I'm drawing a blank, but I could tell you to the one what their skill set is and why they're an integral part of the team. So I'm still stuck on that question about does your course of study matter in your overall success. But sorry, what was it? I'm still there. What was your question? Apprenticeships.
Yes, do you
we do
utilize apprenticeships in your organization?
Not traditional apprenticeships, but we have a program we call Pathways, and it's a way to get 10,000 kids in traditionally LMI communities into Bank of America over the next 3 years. And so what we do is we partner with nonprofits, pick your nonprofit, Year Up, Unidos, Boys and Girls Club, and we'll start working with kids as young as 17 and a half. And instead of a longer program, apprenticeships, at least in our vernacular, 3 years or longer, and a result in a job, we make job commitments right up front. And so we just do it when they're a little bit older. So the Pathways program is new for us, and we're kicking it off this year in DFW, but we've had success in Chicago and Miami and others. So for us, getting kids interested, and by kids, I mean anyone who's 13 to 24 and still pursuing education, getting kids interested in Bank of America early is a for us.
We do apprenticeships in particular fields of development. We have a summer program we call COGS, which is Contractors of Gearbox, so clever acronym, I guess. But we bring in recent graduates to work in our design department to see how quickly they can ramp up. We assume that they've got the technical skill from the school that they graduated from, but can they work in our team environment? And that's really the only time that we do, say, a group apprenticeship. We will do occasional individual mentoring with someone in their student career. But there were no game development schools when we started out 20, 30 years ago. What actually brought me to the area was to work at Guildhall with Renee. About 14 years ago, which was the first graduate degree program in game development in the world. And it's turned out many thousands of excellent alumni who are working in the industry. And now we see a flourishing of those kinds of programs being created within existing universities. We're excited about that, and we're still trying to learn how to take advantage of that and build our relationships with universities so that we can have a formal apprenticeship program. So educate us how to do that.
So certainly a topic near and dear to my heart. Not only do we have thousands of interns every month across the world, we actually do have apprenticeship programs. And it is something here locally within Texas that we are trying to figure out how we replicate more of, specifically for the Presidential Aircraft, or PAR, which is a big part of the work that we do here in this state. We have a very hard time, as I mentioned it earlier, getting folks with the manufacturing, what we would call the touch labor capability, but even shop floor engineering capability that can do plane side or product side support. And so one of the things that we are actually tackling as a strategic imperative going forward, working with our government operations team, is not only building apprenticeships, leveraging the best of what's happening around the world, if you look at the European education system and things happening around the United States, but leveraging some of those best practices to bring into the state of Texas for a site like San Antonio, while concurrently driving Yankee white clearances. Because not only can I not find talent that can do the work, I can't find talent and get them cleared fast enough to classified programs. So I have an interesting dilemma, not just for the people, but also people worthy and able to get the tickets they need in either a top secret or a secret classification. So we're exploring things like, how do we bring people and start to teach them and provide the education and time in on things like those clearances, because they take years to get? And then how do we create the reciprocity agreement where they stay and work for us for a period of time because we've funded not only the education, but we've certainly worked with a government customer to get the billet that we need to get them that clearance. So that's something we're actively exploring right now with our GovOps team, but certainly a very real and focused issue for us here in the state of Texas.
And just really quickly, registered apprenticeships aren't the typical blue-collar jobs that they've been known to be. They've been around for about 87 years now, and they're blue and white collar, and we could literally build out one on anything, and there's grant dollars that attaches to that. So just be aware. Speaking of grants, Collin College, you guys just received an economic development grant from the state of Texas. How are you utilizing this funding to prepare our workforce to be better?
This particular grant was awarded by the Texas Workforce Commission. We received about $300,000 for job training, which is the purpose for that. The grant that we just received was the result of a consortium of several businesses, and our workforce and economic development arm will be, again, as I said, we'll be applying that, using those monies to provide job training for both new and incumbent employees in 3 different areas, including, I believe, web development, benefits analytics, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten the 3rd area, but that's how we'll be using those monies for job training in the area.
So really quickly, plug for Collin College. If you have a need, go and talk to them. They're fantastic at what they do as far as the workforce development is concerned. Mayor Cheney, you've been really quiet. I haven't picked on you, so I think I'm going to pick on you now. Do you have any goals or a specific vision regarding Frisco's future workforce?
Yeah, this has been a great panel. I've just been able to listen and learn. So it's been great for me. When I go around speaking to other cities and companies and everything, they often will tell me that what's happening in Frisco is unique, and they don't see it happening in other communities. To us, it makes sense for us to be, a cog in the wheel. I mean, it'd be very easy to say the school district is doing their own thing. The city of Frisco shouldn't get involved in that. It'd be very easy to say, we'll allow the private sector to just do their own thing. But if we took that approach, and Frisco has never taken that approach, we wouldn't be able to do the great things that we're doing. So we're looking at it holistically. We still have a lot of work to do. So we're looking at it. You mentioned urban planning. We talk about that every single day as far as these commercial developments. The workforce is looking for work, live, play concepts. I mean, the concept of driving through gates and going to your corporate campus, those are over. Those kinds of companies could not attract talent in today's generation. People want to be able to go down and work in a park and have a team meeting in a park and walk to a restaurant and live in that development. And we know we have to deliver that to get the kind of companies that we want here. We know we have to educate the people when they're here, their employees. That's why the partnerships with Collin College and UNT is so important. We're starting to look at the kids in our community. The talent pool here is extraordinary. And so that's where we need to work even harder, which is how do we connect the kids of Frisco ISD and Leadership Prep and other places to the company. The Frisco Chamber, they had a big event. We went to Scottsdale, and kids in the community made all their promotional materials. When my first day that I was here, I was walking through the classrooms, and the kids were working on company logos of a mythical company. And what would a company logo look like? Well, they should be working with a real company. And the company should be able to get access and really benefit from that. So how can we connect the talent pool that we have here with just the kids through that? To the volunteer programs, to making sure our Frisco Chamber is strong. I love sharing stories of, Chad Sterling, who may be our newest CEO, Altair, they're moving here. And I went last week, they had shell space at Hall Park, and they just wanted to show off this space to their employees. And everyone that was there, hundreds of people were there, employees were there, and they were literally moving from the surrounding community. Many of them live in Frisco, and they were just so excited. They're like, wow, we want to be a part of what's happening in Frisco. We want to be a part where we're connecting with other businesses in the community. We're sitting at a table with UNT leadership and leadership of this community, and how do we get more and more plugged in? And so that's really what we're looking for in this community is the city can lead in this. We feel we can lead in this, and many don't, to bring all the pieces together. We know the companies like Boeing, and we have plenty of office space available. But when they're looking for communities to expand, a company like Boeing wants to be around research. That's why we're investing in our entrepreneurial programs and why we have things like Incubator EDU that Allison's doing and Frisco ISD's doing to Inspire Park that Frisco started, but now UNT is taking the ball and running with that. And we're going to grow what we consider the best entrepreneurial community really in the central region. So all these little pieces, as they come together, can really be something special. So at the end of the day, me as mayor, I can go sit down with a company, and it'd be really hard to say no to Frisco. You know, it's hard to move a company across country or to move your employees, but if we can create that right environment where all the pieces are together, everyone's working together from school districts to the private sector. I mean, this is why we do these, which is we want CEOs sitting at tables with small business owners. There's not a lot of communities where that can happen. And it makes a difference. It makes companies like Altair want to be a part of it. And so that's really, I think, what the City of Frisco can do to lead.
So to wrap up our questions for the panel, I just wanted to have the businesses highlight maybe a success story on hiring and retaining individuals, and tie this all together because, of course, it shows your worth if you can show success.
Moving into our new building right over here in Frisco Square has been wonderful for us. We were cramped in East Plano. We have ambitious growth goals. And by virtue of this custom, beautiful space that we're in, we've been able to move quickly from, we were at, 180 or so, and between our office here and an office in another location, we're close to 450. We want to be much more than that for the types of projects that we're doing, the businesses that we're growing. And recently, as a result of being in this location, the talent we've been able to grow here and the size we are, we've been able to bring in someone who was head of business development for Warner Brothers, head of finance for Warner Brothers. We have someone who was head of business at Disney. We're growing an amazing leadership team. And it's really by virtue of the fact that we're here, that Frisco is such an attractive place to be. These are people now who are more mature in industry with kids and want to have their kids be in Frisco schools. So this has been working out really well for us.
The original reason Bank of America arrived in North Texas through a company called Countrywide, which is not anymore, and I won't say their name again. However, we've been here for decades and bulk, so thousands and thousands of employees at one point servicing or selling loans. We've come through a mortgage crisis and we had to build up thousands of staff to help our clients through that. And that mortgage crisis has passed, which has allowed us to hire different types of folks. So in the course of the last 5 years, the campus where I work, right on the border of Plano and Frisco, the campus where I work has gone from roughly 4,000 folks focused on mortgage servicing, call center type work, has transitioned to a heavy tech and ops space. I would say the diversity of North Texas is what has allowed us to continue to be successful. So we don't necessarily need mortgage processors anymore, but we do need coders. And we do need database folks, and we do need folks to manage all of our tech people. So I think for us, what allows us to continue to be big here and continue to grow and continue to employ a lot of people is that as the roles change, the talent does too, and we continue to find great people.
So certainly, first of all, thank you for asking. For us, certainly, this is a hub of innovation, and we did move our global services team from both St. Louis and Seattle, and we headquartered them here because we have an incredibly aggressive business plan, $50 billion in 10 years, which don't even ask what that CAGR is. It just makes me uncomfortable. But Frisco has been a huge part of that. That big Texas welcome, the collaboration with the schools and other industries here has been phenomenal. And so for us, not only have we, in just a little over a year, stood up a brand new third business inside of what has been a 100-year duopoly, we've done it actually without missing a beat. And a large part of that is being able to find such a great welcome and such amazing amenities and communities here. We have not only beat our business plan this year, we are on track for an even bigger than we thought business plan for next year because it's been such a seamless transition, which you don't really expect. When you move, you have a lot of risks and opportunities and issues in a business plan. And we very pleasantly have been able to retire most of that and just been able to execute and service our customers and build new innovation opportunities and attract new customers here. And a lot of it is just where we're at, and most of it is people want to be here. So for us, it's been a huge success story standing up this business.
That is awesome. Success stories are always great. Well, I'm looking at the time, and I think we may have one question from the audience, if possible, before we close out the panel. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. The question was about diversity and inclusion, and with a little bit of transportation thrown in there. What the company was what? Bubble? Bubble. We have a lot of young people who work at Gearbox, and it was a challenge for us to move here from Plano in that there is no public transportation. And so they have to live nearby, and living nearby is getting increasingly costly for them. On the diversity side, I mentioned earlier on that we cater to a global audience. And so we need people working at Gearbox who reflect our audience. We are making stories and creating content for them. And we're very privileged to be here in Frisco, but at the same time, we need to attract more and different kinds of people to work for us, especially as we continue to scale. It's actually one of the reasons we created a studio in another location, was so that we could tap into a different kind of talent pool there. And I'd love to see us find ways to bring more and different kinds of people here, because it's very important for us. And we have a very open culture at Gearbox. We're very accepting of many kinds of people. And if you would find it's a very friendly, kind of family-oriented place as you walk around and see people interacting. So Frisco's been good for that, could be better. We'd like to be part of making it better.
Look, diversity and inclusion, the literature will tell you, makes you a more financially viable company, right? Depending on the industry you're in, it's generally in the term of about 20 to 25 to 30%. So it's a huge, huge area of focus for the leadership team for global services, but certainly Boeing. And we do not just women and minorities here in the United States, we do global women, because minorities are different in every country and every region of every country in the world. So you can't have a US perspective when you're dealing with diversity outside the United States. We also, it's very important to us beyond that, that we include LGBTQ, veterans, people with disabilities. But there are things that we've got to think about. So for instance, a huge portion of my business is in India. And part of where we work in India, it is unsafe for women after work to be in the office. And so we provide reasonable accommodation for those women to actually be driven and chauffeured home so they are not subject to things like acid attacks. And so those are realistic issues that we deal with, I deal with every single day. How do we get and attract a workforce and keep them safe, not just at work, but getting to and from work? Things like Bubble and the opportunities and the transportation you provide, for us, those are just reasonable accommodations that you have to make when you find someone who has the talent you need. Autism is a gift. And we look at it, we have tons of engineers and coders that are on the spectrum, and it's a different way of thinking, but for us, it does make us the financially viable company that we are. Last year, we were #1 on the Dow. Our chairman has certainly pushed us to try to be #1 on the Dow this year as well. That's no company has ever done it, and diversity is a huge part of that success.
So we have 77 employees in Dallas with special needs today. The organization is called Shared Services. We have a handful of them across the country. We actively work with the special needs community and the nonprofits inside of it to find talent and to bring them into a very unique organization. And they work as an internal consultant. So any other line of business at Bank of America can work with Shared Service to get documents printed, to get all kinds of support work done, and we're thriving. So as it relates specifically to those with disabilities, we've got a great program here in Dallas. Broadly, diversity, and I guess more important, inclusion makes us stronger. More than 50% of our employees globally are female. More than 50% of our employees come with diverse backgrounds, and by the way, so do our clients. So it's a business imperative in addition to what's right, kind of right for our people. But we could talk more about what we do in Dallas with our special services team.
Thank you guys so much. It's really refreshing to hear that businesses are hiring the talent and training the skill regardless of the challenges that they're faced with. So that really matters a lot. I am going to ask you guys to please give the panel a huge round of applause. I think they've done a fantastic job.